Hello again. Last time we looked at the Bronze Age, so this time we want to look at our next historical period, which is the Iron Age. This is a period from around 2,800 years ago to the 1st century AD. It marked the move from bronze tools and weapons to much hardier iron ones. It is mainly classified by the type of decoration applied to objects based on earlier Celtic Hallstatt 2,800 to 4,000 years ago, or later Latin 2,400 to 2,050 years ago art styles, both of which originated in Central Europe. The Iron Age ended with the arrival of the Romans. During the later Bronze Age, there are indications of new ideas influencing land use and settlement. Extensive field systems were being set out and settlements were becoming more permanent and focused on better exploitation of the land. An example is the Iron Age village at Chichester in Cornwall, shown in an artist's impression. Long ditches, some many miles in length, were dug with enclosures placed at their ends. These are thought to indicate territorial borders and a desire to increase control over wider areas. By the 8th century BC, there is increasing evidence of Britain becoming closely tied to continental Europe, especially in Britain's south and east. New weapon types appeared with clear parallels to those on the continent, such as a Hallstatt-style dagger from Berkshire. Phoenician traders from North Africa probably began visiting Britain in search of minerals around this time, bringing with them goods from the Mediterranean. At the same time, northern European artefact types reached eastern Britain in large quantities from across the North Sea. Defensive structures dating from this time were often impressive. For example, the brocks, or stone towers of northern Scotland, and the hill forts that dotted the rest of the islands. Some of the most well-known hill forts include Maiden Castle in Dorset, Cadbury Castle in Somerset, and Danebury in Hampshire. Hill forts first appeared in what later became Wessex in the late Bronze Age, but only became common in the period between 550 and 400 BC. It appears that these forts were also used for domestic purposes, with examples of food storage, industry, and occupation being found within the earthworks. On the other hand, they may have only been occupied intermittently, given the discoveries of lowland farmsteads and their roundhouses during the 20th century. Many hill forts are not in fact forts at all, and demonstrate little or no evidence of occupation. Trade links, which had developed in the Bronze Age and continued to grow, provided Britain with numerous examples of continental craftsmanship. Swords especially were imported, copied, and often improved upon by the Britons. Earlier in the period, Hallstatt slashing swords and daggers were a significant import. Latin cultural items appeared in later centuries, and again these were adopted and adapted by the locals. A good example is the Battersea shield found in the River Thames near Battersea and now on display in the British Museum. Cattle represented a significant investment in pre-Roman Britain, as they could be used as a source of portable wealth, as well as providing useful domestic products such as milk, cheese and leather. In the later Iron Age, an apparent shift is visible, revealing a change in dominance from cattle rearing to that of sheep. Economically, sheep are significantly less labour-intensive, requiring fewer people per animal. Whilst cattle and sheep dominate the osteoarchaeological record, evidence for pig, ox, dog, and rarely chicken is also present. The vast number of Iron Age coins found in Great Britain are of great archaeological value, as they represent an important political and economic change. Some, such as gold staters, were imported from mainland Europe. The British tribal kings also adopted the continental habit of putting their names on the coins they had minted, identifying regional and tribal identities. A large collection of coins, known as the Hallerton Treasure, was found at a late Iron Age shrine near Hallerton in Leicestershire in 2000 and consisted of 5,294 coins, some of which were attributed to the Corrioltalvi tribe. These were buried in 14 separate hoards over several decades in the early 1st century AD. Many of the tribes depicted stylized horses on their coins. The Corrioltalvi tribe were also the tribe who inhabited Nottinghamshire, and we have a couple of statues from this period, one at the bottom, similar to the one from North Lincolnshire which is shown above it. From the late 2nd century BC onwards, south-central Britain was indirectly linked into Roman trading networks. These Atlantic trade networks were heavily disrupted following Julius Caesar's conquest of Brittany in the 50s BC. In southeast Britain, meanwhile, extensive contact with the Belgic tribes of northern Gaul is evidenced by large numbers of imported Gallo-Belgic gold coins between the mid-2nd century and Caesar's conquest of Gaul in the 50s BC. Following Caesar's conquest, a thriving trade developed between southeast Britain and the near continent. This is archaeologically evidenced through imports of wine and olive oil amphorae and mass-produced Gallo-Belgic pottery. Strabo, writing in the early 1st century AD, lists ivory chains and necklaces, amber gems and glass vessels as articles being imported to Britain, whilst he recorded the island's exports as grain, cattle, gold, silver, iron hides, slaves and hunting dogs. This trade probably thrives as a result of political links and client-kingship relationships that developed between groups in southeast Britain and the Roman world. As a result, some of these kings became dependent on Rome for support, which may have resulted in the Romans being asked to support them against rival tribes, leading to a Roman invasion, which we'll cover in our next talk. Till fairly recently, comparatively little was known about the Iron Age around Newark. The area was part of the tribal lands of the Coriolturvi, at one stage thought to be called the Coritani. The regional capital was at Rate Coriolturvorum, according to the Romans, which is now better known as Leicester. They were bordered by tribes known as the Brigantes to the north, the Conoivi to the west, the Dubuni and the Catavaloni to the south, and the Iceni to the east. They were largely agricultural people who had few strongly defended sites or signs of centralised government. They appear to have been a federation of smaller, self-governing tribal groups. There are known Iron Age sites at North Muscombe, Southwell, Kirklington, Oxton and Calverton. Iron Age objects in the museum's collection include a bone weaving comb and loom weight, both evidence of textile production, and the coins shown earlier. A few years ago, a metal detector has found an object at Clipston. It turned out to be a fragment of a copper alloy and Iron Age dagger, dating to around 300 to 100 BC, and consisted of part of the copper alloy hilt closest to the blade, the short length of the iron blade, and part of the iron handle. The decoration is in the three-dimensional style of Celtic art, more commonly known in continental Europe, known as the plastic style. Each end is a globular terminal, which is decorated with a spiral and a central pellet on each side. In 2005, one of the most spectacular Iron Age finds in Britain for the last 50 years was made by metal detectorist Maurice Richardson. When he investigated a strong signal from his detector, what he began to reveal took his breath away. Taking it home, he kept it in the supermarket carrier bag before taking it to the Nottinghamshire coroner to declare it as treasure. He had unearthed a gold torque, a type of neck ring, which when sent to the British Museum was revealed as having been made between 250 and 50 BC. It is made from an alloy known as electrum, which is mainly gold and silver with a small amount of copper. It is 20 centimetres in diameter and weighs around 1.5 pounds. Smaller gold wires were twisted together to create 8 thin ropes, which were then twisted together. The terminals are ring-shaped and decorated with Latin-style floral and pointwork designs. X-rays have shown that the terminals are hollow, with the wires joined to them by a small collar. Similar torques have been found elsewhere in the country, but with a large concentration in the Iceni territory of modern Norfolk. It has been described as second importance only to the Snettisham Great Torque on display at the British Museum. Initial explanations were that it might have been some sort of gift between neighbouring tribes, maybe to cement mutual support. Whatever it might have been, it would have been a status symbol worn by a powerful member of the tribe. There is no explanation as to why it was buried where it was found. It has been the subject of much research and may lead to an alternative view of how torque manufacture developed in Britain. Previously, the most common view was that the Iceni were the master torque makers. However, their only source of gold would have been melted down Belgic staters. The source of gold in Britain was in the west, in Wales, Ireland and Scotland. So could torque making have started there and made its way eastwards before ending up with the Iceni? Our torque is very similar in style to a torque found in Scotland, which might go some way to supporting this theory. The torque was bought with substantial support from other funders for the museum. Initially it was loaned to the British Museum and displayed amongst the other torques there, But finally, with the opening of the National Civil War Centre in 2015, it was brought home and displayed in the Newark Gallery. Fittingly, the first person through the door to see it on the day we opened was Maurice Richardson to welcome his find home. Despite this spectacular find, little was known about where the Iron Age people of Newark lived. The Middlebeck development excavations were to shed some light on this. The area east of Bowbridge Lane contained evidence of an Iron Age settlement with nearly a dozen roundhouses, numerous pits, post holes, and other features set within an extensive system of ditched enclosures and land divisions. Significant amounts of pottery were recovered from the pits, some of which included scored ware, typical of the Middle to Late Iron Age, between 400 and 100 BC. Further Iron Age finds were found on the other side of Bowbridge Lane. Intriguingly, a Neolithic axe was found, which may have been used as a whetstone to sharpen metallic edges, as shown by the scratches on the stone. Through archaeological excavations, our knowledge of both Bronze and Iron Age Newark is being expanded, and I'm sure there is much more to be told. Next time, the Romans arrive and start to transform the area around Newark.